Welcome back to ZANTASTIC. This is the podcast where we find out what makes you fantastic so you can live a better life. Now, I don't know if you've ever been down the trail of trying to figure out how to manifest your dream life. There are a lot of people who teach about this, and some of the newer voices that are on the scene are adding a new perspective. My guest, Joel Mccleoud from Manchester, UK, brings a very unique perspective to all of this understanding about what you think about and how it creates your reality. I asked him some pointed questions about how he did this and what he teaches. I think you'll find this conversation very interesting. The thing that it brought back to me is just how effective this all is. I mean, I've manifested numerous things: cars, homes, moves, husbands, all sorts of things. And Joel really shares some unique perspectives. So I hope you find this conversation interesting. I sure did. Thanks for being here. Joel Mccleoud, I am so excited to meet you. I've been consuming some of your content on YouTube. You've got some stuff going on. Thanks for being here.
I have. Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Tell me your trajectory of how you got into this work, because I know the story is really interesting, but let's share it with the audience.
Yeah, so I grew up in a place called Manchester. Most people might know it through the football, the soccer team. You say soccer in the US, right?
We
Manchester
do.
United, Manchester City, and in America you would call it the projects. I grew up on a council estate, which is similar to the projects in the US, and what I've learned is we're products of our environment, right? So people around me, they was, hustling on the streets. They weren't getting up to much. And I really believe that, to earn lots of money and be successful, you had to be really smart. And I was a misunderstood kid, to say the least. So when I was 13, I got kicked out of school. So I've had no formal high school education since year 8, year 9. And I grew up with that belief, I'm doomed, because if you want to earn lots of money, you've got to be really smart. And I knew I wasn't, the sharpest tool in the book. So I fell back into kind of the street life, getting up to no good, smoking cannabis, doing nothing, going nowhere with my life, really. And then when I was about 20, my mum put a post on Facebook. Is there any photographers that would take pictures of my son? And I don't know what made me go for it, but some lady said that she was studying photography at Manchester University and she'd love to take some images. So I met her in the town centre. I took some images. I applied for agencies, and boom, like 3 months later, I'm flying around the world. Versace are flying me out to Milan. It's a pretty crazy experience considering I'd only left the country twice when I was 10 and 11. So here I am, little young Joel, flying across the world doing all these photo shoots. And then when I was I'd say about 20, probably a year after that, for some reason, I came across a man on YouTube called Bob Proctor. Now, up until that point, I wasn't, I was getting flew out to like Versace and stuff for like castings, but every time I went, they didn't book me. So I'd get all these big opportunities, but then I'd go and they didn't book me. And looking back now, I mean, my self-esteem, my belief in myself was like rock bottom, even though people could perceive me as really good looking, good physique and stuff. Like my belief in myself and my self-image was terrible. So looking back, that was mainly the issue. So I started wanting more, and for some reason I came across Bob Proctor on YouTube. The first book that I picked up was Rich Dad Poor Dad. Don't ask me why. I had never ever seen anyone in my life ever read a book. I don't know why I picked up a book. I don't know why I started reading, but I just did. And then I came across Bob, like I said, and he was screaming on YouTube talking about, you can have anything that you want. You've got to control your thinking and the subconscious mind. And at first I thought he was quite loopy, but because I was really losing, I was willing to listen to anything. And because I seen, well, this man's old, he's full of energy, he's clearly got money, he's clearly doing well, he clearly knows something that I don't know. He just really captured my conscious attention. So I kept listening to him, and he was talking about a book. I've actually got it here. I still read it every day. It's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I started reading the book, and I was really, really fascinated by the information. And I'd never like I said, I got kicked out of school at 13. I never knew anything about sales. I never knew how to run a business, nothing like that. But then I started, trying these little businesses. So crystals, like healing crystals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started buying healing crystals from a wholesalers and selling them on Etsy. And I'd sit there, I'd package them up, and I'd just be listening to Bob over and over again because he was explaining how repetition is what changes the subconscious mind, etc. And I'm doing quite well. Like some months I'd get up to about £5,000. And for me, that was like amazing. And then I think I got too big for my boots and I stopped studying. I stopped listening to Bob. And then the business just crumbled and I was back to square one. And also, I never really enjoyed modeling, but I think I lived for a number of years with the fear of what will people think if I quit this. Because everyone would say to me, that's an amazing job. You get to travel, you get to go and work with these big brands. But in hindsight, how does anyone know what is right for me? Only I know what's right for me. So I used to love the traveling. I used to love meeting people. But when I was in front of that camera, I just felt so bored and just felt like it wasn't my calling. And that's why I feel like I wasn't a successful model, because there could be someone out there that maybe isn't perceived as good looking as I am. I mean, whatever that means, right? It's all perception, right? But if they really believe in themselves and they're really passionate about modeling, then they're going to skyrocket. They're going to do absolutely incredible. So I find myself at 20, I'm 29 on Friday. So at 26, I was still modeling, still making about £15,000 a year. And I've also got 2 children. Esme is 7 now and Elijah's 3. And even if you don't have children, to live off £15,000 a year is not an easy task, let alone when you've got two little ones to feed and, keep the heating on and keep a roof over the head. So my partner at the time was, she was doing the heavy lifting. If I'm honest, she was, covering the rent, and I'm not sure if you have Uber Eats in America. Yeah, I used to be on a pedal bike, and it's not like where you are in Texas. I'd probably enjoy doing Uber Eats if I was in Texas on a pedal bike. But in Manchester, it was raining, I'm salt, and I was working really, really hard for absolutely pennies, right? So bearing in mind, I'm 26 now. So I've been listening to Bob. I've knew about Think and Grow Rich. I've knew about manifestation. I've knew about all this information for 6 years. Yet I'm still earning the same amount of money. So I thought, I'm missing something. I need some help here. So I went onto Bob Proctor's website, the Proctor Gallagher Institute, and I put in my email, and it come up with like a calendar, and it was like a free call. And this guy called Cam, he called me, and you could tell he was trained by Bob, because he was just like, "What's your goal? What do you want?" And I just really wanted money. I thought if I had enough money, it would fix all my problems. And now I understand that money doesn't fix all your problems at all, right? But at the time, I thought if I've got money, everything will go away. So I said, I want money. He said, well, how much money do you want? You've got to be specific. So I said, well, I'd like to earn £25,000. And he said, what's the most you've ever earned in a year? And I said, about 15,000, maybe 18,000 max. And he said, well, that's not a good goal. He said, you already know how to make £15,000. He said, why don't you focus on turning your yearly income into a monthly income? I didn't believe I could do that. I thought he was nuts, but I'd been listening to Bob for years, and something in me thought it was possible, right? So he told me about this mentorship. I believe it was about $10,000. And I'm like, well, I'd love to do it, but I'm making £15,000 a year. How do you expect me to pay $10,000 for a mentorship? And then he coached me on decision making. And I'd always been a poor decision maker. I never knew how to make decisions because my parents never let me make my own decisions. So he told me, you don't need the money. You've not made the decision to do it. And I was like, yeah, I do. I need the money in my account to be able to send you, to join the program. He said, no, you don't. He said, when you make a committed decision, you find the people, you find the resources, and you find the money every single time. And I was in a place where, I mean, it weren't life or death, but, I've got to provide for my children. I didn't really feel like a man. I wanted to provide for the woman that I was with at the time. So I made the committed decision, and I ended up finding a bit of money to go for a payment plan. I mean, I didn't have a clue how I was going to make the next payment the month after, but I thought, hell with it, I'll go for it. And that's the first thing they got me to do on the Bob Proctor year-long coaching. They got me to get a goal card and write down my goal, and on the card I'm so happy and grateful now that I have turned my yearly income into a monthly income. And they told me, keep reading it every single day, carry it with you. At first, you're going to think it's silly, and then you're going to keep reading it, and then you're going to start to believe it. And then when you start to believe it, you're going to start to act on it, and then you're going to see it in your results. I was willing to do anything that they told me to do because clearly my way wasn't working. So what this little thing got me to do is I started thinking about money. And then I was in bed one night and I had this voice come into my head, go and build an online fitness company that operates all around the world. I was in great shape myself, but I never knew anything about getting anyone else into shape or, calories or nutrition. But they taught me you don't need to know how, you just need to know that you will. You're not going to know how, right? The exciting part is finding out how. So my little sister, Bobby Lee, she's got a boyfriend that she's still with called Damien. And he was not in the best shape, but he wanted to be in shape. So I said, okay, look, I'll help you get in shape. I'll do it completely free. What I want you to do is donate £100 to a charity of your choice, because that way I knew he'd take it serious. He's invested. And all I want from you is the before and after picture. And I've done that for about 2 months. And he started seeing results. So now I had something to post on social media. If you want to get in shape, then book a call with me. And then when I was first on calls, talk about selling. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was just getting rejected. But I was always having that financial goal in my mind. And long story short, 5.5 months into that mentorship, I went from £15,000 a year to £18,000 a month through getting people into shape. So what I wrote on here actually came true. And then I took my kids to Dubai. When I was a kid, if you would have asked my mum what Dubai was, she probably would have thought it was a dessert or a milkshake, right? She didn't know. So I took my kids to Dubai. We were flying Emirates. I take them to, beautiful restaurants. We're staying in this, beautiful apartment. And that's when it really hit me like, wow. Because I think over them 6 months, I didn't really have time to sit down and really take in what had happened. Like money just kept coming to me. And I sat down in Dubai and I was thinking, wow, like this is crazy. And I knew it weren't a coincidence because I'd been studying myself every single day. I'd been, growing in my awareness and also raising my vibration and acting like the person that I wanted to become. So remember when I said before, when I was sat in bed and I got that voice come to me, go and build an online fitness company. I was in bed. It was 2 a.m. in Dubai and I had that same voice come to me. And the voice said, don't just learn this, go and teach it, go and work with Bob. Now, at the time, I didn't know that you could even go and work with Bob. I didn't even know that they had a consultant division. I didn't know any of that. So I rang Cam again. He's in Canada, so it was a bit earlier for him. And I said, how do I teach this? And he's like, well, you can become, a consultant. You got to go through you got to get certified. You got to, learn the modules, learn how to teach it. And I said, right, I'm in. And then he told me the price. I didn't have that money. But I knew from the decisions that I'd made in the past that I didn't need the money. I just needed to make the decision. And that was, I believe, in March, April of last year. And fast forward, we're in 2026, so that would have been 2024. So coming up to 20 months, and there's probably close to maybe 5,000 Bob Proctor consultants worldwide, and I've managed to get up into the top 1%. I believe there's only about 30 or 40 of us up there. So it's been a crazy transformation for me.
Wow. What a story. That is really amazing.
Right.
It's really amazing. Now, I've worked with manifestation types of things. My husband worked with people who were in The Secret. So like was my introduction to Bob, and he just distilled it down so clearly. But I've seen tons of people who start on this manifestation journey of creating the life of their dreams and what they want, and they give up. They get to a point where maybe they manifest some parking spaces or a little bit of money starts coming in, and they think, it worked. Why isn't all this other stuff happening? Can you talk to me a little bit about how you were able to stay consistent with it when you mentioned you stopped listening, you stopped learning, and then, you kind of lost it a little bit? Like, how does that discipline play into it?
Yeah, I think the big game changer for me was the mentorship and the
Mm,
accountability and being around like-minded people. Because before that, when I was, watching Bob on YouTube, I'm surrounded by people. If you start talking about the subconscious mind, they're going to start thinking that you're nuts, right? So when I got the mentorship, I'm around people that was on the same journey as me as well. I know the reason I achieved my goal is because I wanted it so much. And
yeah.
that's the first step to accomplishing anything is desire. You've got to know what you want, and you're able to do it. If we go to science or we go to theology, they're the only two sources of reference that we can go to find out anything about ourselves, right? They both tell us that they don't know what we're capable of doing. All they know is that we have infinite potential. So
Mhm.
those things that we see in our mind, the way that we want to live and we can see in our imagination, we're able to do it. We might not know how to do it, but we're able to do it. I love what Steve Jobs said. He said, you can never connect the dots looking forward, you know? So when I first wrote down, when I started that mentorship, I'm so happy and grateful now that I turned my yearly income into a monthly income. If I would have tried looking forward to see how it would happen, I would have never seen it. Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. So you've just got to have faith that the dots are going to connect going forward. So it was only once I achieved it that I looked back and I could tell a person how I'd done it. Right.
Yeah.
So these two questions we've got to ask ourselves. Number one is, am I able to do this? You've got infinite potential. You are able to do it. Number two is, are you willing? That's a different one, right? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to cause that image in your mind to manifest into physical form? So for me to become top 1% of Bob Proctor's consultants, I probably enrolled about 50 people in the past 20 months onto Thinking into Results, which is a Bob's program, which I facilitate. But I've took 800 sales calls. So that means 750 times I was told no, but I
Mhm.
was I was actually willing to do that. They say Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times trying to create the incandescent light. Edmund Hillary, who climbed to the top of Mount Everest, he went in 1951 and he failed. He went in 1952 and he failed. And then he went back in 1953 and he achieved it. So you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to do whatever it takes? Some people might say they're willing, but then when it comes to doing the work, they're not willing to really go after it. And I think this is why you've got to be going after something that you really want. And we call this a C-type goal. So you have A-type goals, which is something that you know how to achieve. You have a B-type goal, which is what you think you can achieve. And then you've got a C-type goal, which is what you really want,
Mhm.
right? So I think when you find out what you really want, I don't think you can quit. I think the
Yeah.
people that quit, they've got B-type goals. They're going after something that they think they can achieve. I've just had a conversation with a man on Instagram before this, and he's making 4,000 a month, and he said, his goal is to make 5,000 a month. And I just said, that's such a silly goal. The whole purpose of a goal is to grow. It's not to get the house, to get the car. The whole purpose of a goal is to grow as a human being. So if we're going after something that we already know how to do, we're not going to grow. And if we're going after something that we think we can do, there's no inspiration in that. So what happens is people get going, they're not inspired, and then they quit.
Yeah.
But when you're going after what you really want, I can never quit because it's what I really want. It's what my heart desires. And remember, desire is the unexpressed possibility within seeking expression without. So anything that I desire, anything that the viewer desires, it's God wanting it through you. There's a great story in The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. That was actually the book that Rhonda Byrne was inspired to write the
Yes.
secret on. Yeah, and he's got a story in it about the boy that he was trying to play the piano and he got upset. And he went over to him and said, "What's up with you?" And he said, "I can feel the music in me, but my hands won't do it." And that's like God wanting to play the piano through him. God is for expansion and fuller expression, right? So I think with everyone, and I speak to my girlfriend about this, I think everyone has something jabbing them in the heart of what they want. But then I think the toxic beliefs, the fear of what other people will think if they step out and do it, just stops them from doing it.
I'm really interested. I want to ask you about some things that you said about you just set this really big goal and you don't understand, how it's going to happen, the path there. It's just, and it seems almost unreal. but you had these inspirational moments of like waking up at night and like just having like a download type of thing. Talk to me a little bit about what you think's going on with that.
It's a great question. Well, I'm filling my mind with my goal, right? So one of the well, probably the most powerful concept I've ever come across is the stick person, right?
Yeah.
So this is what Bob Proctor introduced me to, and he was like, "Well, have a look at this, and like this is you, right?" And at first I thought like this is like crazy, right? But this has really helped me understand me, and then if I understand me, I understand you, right? Because we're both the same. I mean, my skin might be brown, your skin might be white, but that's not really you. The highest side of you I'm never going to see, right? So he explained this like, okay, well, the top circle is your mind, and this here's your body, and the top half of the big circle is your conscious mind, this part is your subconscious mind, and this is your body, right? So our conscious mind thinks, our subconscious mind feels, and our body is just the action taker. It just does whatever we're emotionally involved with. So this is why all the leaders, whether it's Buddha, whether it's, I don't know, Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, all these wise men, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, they disagreed on pretty much everything in life apart from one thing, and that's that we become what we think about. And the reason is that our thoughts trigger feelings, feelings trigger actions, and those actions produce results. So what I was doing, and what the goal card is really good for, is you're keeping your goal in your conscious mind. You're constantly thinking about it. Now, it's the thoughts that we think, our dominant thoughts, that get impressed upon the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is our emotional mind. It's our feeling mind. Feeling is just another word for vibration. So if you keep impressing this beautiful image of whatever you want, it's going to be impressed onto your subconscious mind. It alters your vibration. Vibration is just a natural law of the universe, and your vibration dictates your actions, but it also sets up an attractive force as well. So this is where you start, you don't just sit in bed and think about the money and you just open your eyes and the money's there, but you start attracting ideas like I was. I go and work with Bob, I'll build this online fitness company. So that's why these people have literally said that we are a sum total of our thoughts. And the beautiful thing about it is that no one can cause us to think about something that we do not want to think. I think the problem with society is that most people don't think. Now, people might think, oh, that's stupid, but just have a look around. Look how people are acting. They're not thinking. Mental activity does not constitute thinking. So we have these five senses. And when we're watching the news, when we're listening to the gossiping neighbors or listening to these negative people, because we're not thinking, those ideas go straight into our subconscious mind, and then we start to believe it. I've been having this conversation with my daughter. Someone told her that, if you go outside with your hair wet and the weather's cold, you catch a cold. And I was like, that's not true. That's not true. But if you tell a child that, a child doesn't have a conscious mind, their subconscious mind's wide open, they start to believe it. That's why my son Elijah genuinely thought on the 25th of December that Santa Claus came down the chimney. He was convinced of it because he's been told that, so he genuinely believes it. Kids are not lying when they say Santa Claus is real. They actually believe it. So if we start telling children, money's hard to earn, you've got to be smart to earn lots of money, they grow up and believe that. Yeah. So we need to start telling children, you can be anything you want. I think the issue is, as children, when we dream, I'm sure every man wanted to be, a football player or, a soccer player, and every girl probably wanted to be a ballerina or an astronaut. And then when we speak about that when we're younger, the adults in our life that we look up to, like the God, tell us, be realistic, go after something that's achievable. But if we look at anyone that's achieved anything, it was never realistic. The Wright brothers, who created the first airplane, wasn't. So I think it's got to start in the infant age, because children are way more programmable than a full-grown adult. So my son Elijah, if I took him to China now and lived there for 6 months, he would speak Chinese like that. It would be so difficult to me because my thinking is already set. Yeah. his subconscious mind's wide open. If I tell him, son, you're amazing, you can do anything when you're older, you can do anything, you're powerful, you're strong, he starts to believe it. But 97% of the population, unfortunately, don't do that with the children. You know, it's, I'm going to call the policeman. You know, there's studies done on these parents that tell the children, you know, you're going to be in prison when you're older. You're that naughty, you're going to go to jail. These children grow up and go to jail. Imagine your parent just planting that over and over again in your subconscious mind. So I always say the people that created this done an amazing job at programming it. Mm-hmm. Right? The people that created the program for it done an amazing job. The people that created the program for us had no clue what they was doing. Absolutely no clue what they was doing. So I know I went off on a bit of a tangent there, but I'm sure there's a lot of golden nuggets in there for the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Our parents give us beliefs. They give us these programs that then just run, and then we start thinking these thoughts, and we think they're our thoughts. We own them. Or I think a lot of times people over-identify with their thoughts and emotions, and they think that's them. Like, what I think is me, and what I feel is our language. Mm-hmm. I'm angry. No, you're not. You feel anger, but you are not anger, you know, and these emotions and thoughts a lot of times come in as sort of like these transient things from old programming, completely without any conscious thought and selection of like, this is what I want. This is what I want to believe. This is what is possible. Mm-hmm. But you didn't have that when you were growing up. You got a lot of really negative programming just from your environment. How much effort was it to go from a place of disempowerment to a place where you're now doing really amazing things? Like, did that take like a huge shift? Did it take a lot of time, or is there a trick to making that shift?
I mean, there's no trick. Your subconscious mind is going to be changed the way it was formed, which is through repetition. You know, see, I'm not Joel. You know, I'm probably going to go by that name the rest of my life, but I'm not Joel. That was just an idea that my parents planted in my subconscious mind when I hadn't. The subconscious mind can't reject. It will accept anything. That's why we can say to kids, you know, Santa's real. He flies through the air on a reindeer, right? They believe it. So if I would have just heard Joel once in the first 3 years that I was on this earth, I wouldn't respond to it. It was said over and over and over and over again. So for me, I mean, I still work on myself every single day. It took a lot of repetition for me to believe in myself, for me to have confidence. And I think anyone can do anything if they're willing to get a pen and write down exactly how they want to live.
Yeah.
Write down exactly how you want to live and just make a recording. I make all my clients make a self-image recording. Because when we think about it, we're actors, right? One of my favorite actors is Leonardo DiCaprio and Denzel Washington. Well, when Leonardo DiCaprio got the role for, let's say, Wolf of Wall Street, it wasn't the finished project that we see today. It was just a big, thick book with words on it. So he read the script, he read it again, he memorized it, he internalized it, and he became it. So when Leonardo's acting as Jordan Belfort, he's actually being Jordan Belfort. He's convinced his subconscious mind that he's this person. That's why some actors find it hard to come out of the role, because they believe it, right? So we can do the same thing. We can write down in present tense, I am so happy and grateful now that I am living this way. You know, I have an amazing partner who treats me this way. We have these type of conversations. I dress this way. You know, people treat me this way. I've attracted this into my life. I drive this type of car. I take these holidays. I attract this type of person. And if we listen to that over and over and over again, then our subconscious mind starts to believe that is true. Napoleon Hill calls it autosuggestion. And I'm constantly, every single day, doing a lot of autosuggestion to keep my mind positive.
It's almost like you're hypnotizing yourself into believing the reality you want.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, we work out. Well, most people who are concerned about their health, they exercise their bodies. They put in the reps with their bodies, but they might not necessarily put in the reps with their mind. It's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Well, we think about it, right? If I went to the gym and I just done one bicep curl, it's very unlikely that I'm going to get big biceps, right? So we reprogram the body. That's what we're doing when we go gym. We're reprogramming the whole body. We do it the same way as the mind, which is through repetition. So when I go to the gym, I'm doing the same movement over and over again to build my muscle. So I study every single day. I'm currently studying the science of getting rich, think and grow rich. I'm studying something every single day because it's the same way that we look after our physique. I am reprogramming my mind, and I call it my brain food. We all need inspiration. And I found that we are the average of the people that we spend time with and the books that we read. So we've got to exercise our imagination. We've got to use our higher faculties. Every animal in the world has 5 senses. They can see, they can hear, they can smell, they can taste, they can touch. My mom's got a cat at home that can do that. But what makes us God's highest form of creation is that we have 6 higher faculties. We have perception, will, memory, reason, imagination, and intuition. And we can use these higher faculties to create our own environment. One of them is the will. And the will is the ability to hold one idea on the screen of your mind to the exclusion of everything else. That's where you've got to become focused. You've got to be able to look. We've all got challenges coming at us, all this information coming at us all day. But can you be disciplined enough to keep your goal in your mind? I think the issue with most people is they don't know what they want. So we've got this power that is constantly flowing into our consciousness, and out of it, we can think. Now, if a person doesn't have a goal, targets are good for the soul, yours and mine. We need a target, right? So if we don't have a goal, if we don't have a place in our mind, something to think about, that's where we just get caught up in daily trivia. And I call it, we just become drifters. I mean, if I didn't have this little piece of card with my goal on it, I'd be lost. I wouldn't know what to do with my day. I'd just be drifting throughout life, just getting dragged here, dragged there. But because I'm thinking about my goal, everything that I do, every action that I take, every thought that I think is intentional, and it's directing me towards that purpose.
People have a really hard time thinking big, thinking infinite, thinking about the highest potential. And so what you aim at is what you get, right? And I went through this exercise with a group of coaches that were setting their goals for 2026. And I was just like, what I wanted to ask you, what advice do you have for people who are setting their goals at the beginning of 2026 and they're making very logical, safe plans? Because that's not big enough, is it?
No, not at all. Well, if you know how to reach your goal, it's the wrong goal. If you know how to reach the goal, it's the wrong goal, because the goal isn't to get the thing. Like I said before, the goal is to grow. So lesson 1 of thinking into results is based on a lot of Earl Nightingale's work. And I get my clients to sit down and they write out a shopping list. And in this exercise, they're not thinking about how. Take the how out of your mind. If you had a magic wand, if you had all the tools and resources that you needed to accomplish or have anything, what would that be? And they let their mind wander. It's called fantasy. Now, the problem is with kids, we get told not to fantasize, to be realistic, like I mentioned before, right? So we want to take our mind to a place where it's like, okay, if I could do anything, what would I really love to do? And then we go with that. Now, you're not going to know how to do it. If you know how to do it, like, you've got the wrong goal. Like, a client of mine has to send me their goal card before they can move on to lesson 2 of thinking into results. And if I see that it's a B-type goal, it's like there's no growth in that, right? When I set a goal, I'm looking at my goal right now. I have no clue how to do it. And it excites me and it scares me at the same time. If I set a goal and it doesn't kind of scare me, then I know I'm on the wrong track, right? And something about Napoleon Hill says it in the beginning of Think and Grow Rich, or I think the publisher does. It's very good. Okay, so he's talking about Edward C. Barnes, and he says he wanted to go into business with with Thomas Edison. And he goes, in the end, who was Edison to prevent the fulfillment of such a strong intention? Barnes had not only the desire, but the faith that he would get what he wanted. So if a person's setting low goals to themselves, they just don't have faith. They don't believe that this big goal is attainable, right? So the missing key is faith. So it says here, before he even entered Edison's office, he had at length pictured himself working with and being of essential service to him, and he knew it would happen. Yet Napoleon Hill realized that most people do not naturally have such faith and are at a disadvantage as the result, which is the people that we're talking about, right? Now it says here, here comes autosuggestion. It's the process by which we affirm to ourselves via a daily spoken mantra charged with emotion the person we wish to become. Over time, these affirmations will settle into the subconscious mind with the weight of fact. Mere thoughts become convictions. Faith is a feeling of relaxed inevitability that something will come to pass. Yet through autosuggestion, which is a process validated by today's cognitive behavioral therapy, we can engineer this powerful state at will. So I always say to people, look, you're not going to write an affirmation every morning and say, you know, I am from Texas and I have blonde hair. You already believe that. So when we create an affirmation, we're creating it because we don't believe it. But when we understand how the subconscious mind works, if we tell it a lie over and over again, we start to believe that it's true. And I've been on the wrong end of this as well. You know, during the first lockdown here in the UK, the first COVID, like I said before, I used to smoke a lot of cannabis, you know, even up until 7 years ago. And I got sectioned. I'm not sure what you would call it in America, but I had a cannabis-induced psychosis. And I had to spend 21 days in a mental institution. But I was obsessing over these negative thoughts. So I'd have a thought come into my mind, like, what if my daughter's not mine? And, you know, we all have crazy thoughts, but it's the ones that you catch, you grab, and you start obsessing over. I told myself I was obsessing over that thought so much that I convinced myself my daughter weren't mine. If you was to see an image of my daughter, you'd be like, oh my God, she is your twin. But it doesn't matter because I believed that she wasn't at that time. And also I was going for a psychosis. So I know about it in a negative way. And I also know about it in a positive way as well. So if we wake up in the morning and we say out loud, something wonderful is going to happen today. I can feel it. Something amazing is going to happen today. I'm going to attract so many good things today. I'm expecting greatness today. It's actually that affirmation that changes our vibration that actually attracts something amazing to happen to us. It's very powerful, auto-suggestion. Very powerful.
Yeah. So if I chose, I am a billionaire, which I'm not, it just feels like this. It feels incongruent with my life experience. But if I keep saying that over and over again, the world will start to reorganize itself and intuitions will start to drop in and I will be on my way if I keep repeating it.
100%. But then 100%, but then you've got to start acting like that person as well. Right. So, but you'll notice that if you, to be honest, most people don't want to be billionaires, you know. I don't want to be a billionaire. When I was growing up, I'd be like, oh, I'd love to be a billionaire, right? But anyone can be a billionaire. Absolutely anyone. Because we just go back to this again. If your dominant thought is, I am a billionaire, your subconscious mind is going to pick up on it. It doesn't just set up a magnetic attraction. It also changes your actions as well. Now, there is a gestation period. So you might not be a billionaire and you're outside. But we know for an absolute fact, because it is a law of the universe, that whatever is impressed, it has to be expressed. If we're impressing good thoughts, it has to be expressed. You see it in a person's charisma, in their smile, in their energy, right? If someone's impressing negative thoughts, it's expressed as well, but mainly it's suppressed, and that suppression turns into depression. But if your dominant thought is a billion, it has to come to fruition. Absolutely. But you've got to keep it here. You've got to keep it here. You know, set an alarm for every hour that you're awake. And when that alarm goes off, I'm so happy and grateful now that I have £1 billion in my possession. And then you are going to start attracting thoughts. Now, with $1 billion, you might not accomplish that for another 20, 30 years. You know, we have to think about the law of gestation as well. Some people think they can just say, you know, I'm so happy and grateful that I've got 100 million in the account, but there's a law of action reaction. You know, for you to get 100 million in a 12-month period, there has to be action, and also there has to be an equal and opposite reaction to that as well. So there is going to be a gestation period. Just like when a woman gets pregnant, we know that it takes 280 days for that spiritual seed, which is the baby, to manifest. With your goal, which is the same thing, it's a spiritual seed, we don't know how long it takes to manifest. 1 billion is clearly going to take longer than, you know, 100,000, 200,000. But if you're constantly thinking about £1 billion, this isn't just my opinion. We literally become what we think about. You would have to manifest 1 billion. Most people aren't thinking about 1 billion because of what we spoke about before. They don't believe it's possible for them.
Right. Well, somebody I recently interviewed, Randy Gage, he was talking about how he thinks that for people who take really bold action in the age of AI, that having $1 billion, becoming a billionaire is easier now than it's ever been, if you're willing to take really bold, audacious action. So I've been like kind of meditating on that. Like, what does that actually mean? But so many people just want to like play it safe and do what's logical and do what, you know, is okay with friends and family and the judgments that they imagine. But I've been meditating on this, like, what does that bold, audacious action look like? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends. It depends if you was going to get into the AI industry or you was going to do something else. I think a lot of people pay too much attention to the strategy side of things, though. I just know that if my goal's not 1 billion, I probably never want to earn a billion personally. But with if my goal was 1 billion, I don't know all these different industries, but I do know how to hold an image on the screen of my mind until my subconscious mind accepts it, and then I attract everything that's needed. So whether it's £1 or if it's 1 billion, if you are holding that £1 billion in your conscious mind, you are going to attract the ideas, the people, like you become magnetic to your dominant thought. There's a self-confidence formula in Think and Grow Rich, and he talks about second, I know that any desire that I hold in my mind will eventually be expressed through some physical way of attaining it. And he says, I know through the principle of autosuggestion, any desire that I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some physical means of attaining it. So universal intelligence, the universe, acts first on the dominating desires that have been mixed with feeling. And it's funny what you said before about people aren't looking to take the risks. Earl Nightingale has a great quote. He says, most people tiptoe through life trying to make it safely to death.
That's sad. That's truly sad, but it's so true. I know so many people, myself included sometimes, but I'm trying to change that. But yeah, wow, that is a very powerful quote. Tiptoe to death. That's depressing. Okay, everybody who's watching, you're not allowed to do that. If you know me, if you know Joel, you can't.
Yeah, look, life should be exciting. You know,
Yes.
I'm willing to bet the house on my next move in my business. Like, if I lose it all, I mean, I'm gonna get it back. It's not what's going on outside, it's what's going on inside, right? So we can look at someone who earns $100,000 every single month. If they lost their business, if they lost their house, they didn't lose the prosperity consciousness that they've got. So that's why you can see, you know, a businesswoman, she loses everything, and in a few months, she's got a completely new business in a completely new industry, and then she's back to where she was. And you get the opposite with a person who's got a lack and limitation mindset, a poverty consciousness. They can win £1 million on the lottery, and 12 months later, they don't have it. You know, it's really true. If you was to equal out all the money in the world between 8.3 billion people, which I believe is the current population, within a few years, everyone would have the same amount back again. Because your money, your subconscious mind's in control of your money, because your subconscious mind controls your vibration, and your vibration controls what you can attract.
For sure. Really, really good insights. Tell me a little bit about Yeah, it's so powerful and it's so true because you see it all the time. You see the evidence of it, that
Mhm.
people's external accoutrements of their life reflect back who they are on the inside. And so you have to take care of your mind, your emotions, which come from what your mind is giving attention to. So it's so critical. And yeah, very, very good. I want to ask you about the magnetic business launchpad. I know this might not go out while you're doing it, but give the audience a little idea of because I know you're giving back like a week of this kind of knowledge to a lot of people. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be doing one every 6 weeks of
Okay.
2026. So if this isn't out in time, they'll definitely be able to catch the one in February. But essentially, there's a big difference between knowledge and experience. Like if someone reads Think and Grow Rich, um, they have knowledge on it, they can tell you about it, right? But it's different when you've experienced it and you've seen physical results. So I'm very big on working in harmony with the laws of the universe. So what I like to do is I do a free 5-day workshop. This one specifically, day one's going to be about goals. Day two, we're going to get into the conscious and the subconscious and why we're not doing in our business what we already know we should be doing because of the program in the paradigm. We'll dive into self-image, also a bit of strategy and also decision making as well as the stick person. But essentially, when you start to work in harmony with these laws, you can have the same strategy in your business, but now it just works because we've changed the vibration, we've changed what's going on inside. In fact, when I first became a consultant for Bob Proctor's company, I used to work way harder than I do now. I probably take half the action that I used to, but it's a lot more effective because I'm coming from the goal instead of to the goal. So it's just about getting you in harmonious vibration with the life that you want. So when you've got a goal, when you've got this idea of the way that you want to live, that is out there. It's just on a different frequency. So my workshop is designed to help you implement what I'm teaching to put you on the same frequency. And then it's like gold dust, right? You just attract it. You just take the right actions at the right time. You meet the right people, and then the universe starts working in your favor. And also the law of receiving. So on like day 4 or 5, I will give people an opportunity to book a one-to-one call with me and learn more about my mentorship. But I work with the law of receiving. I know if I show up and I just give, I have to receive. It might not be from that specific person, but it has to come back to me. So I like to do these workshops for free. And the most important thing about the workshops is the homework, because we could listen to me all day. Like I listened to Bob for 6 years on YouTube and I didn't do anything the man told me to do. So I have, my team, they have a success advisor that's walking them through the workshop, making sure they're implementing and getting amazing results. So this one starts this evening, 2 hours from now. And yeah, I'm super, super looking forward to it. I also post quite a lot on YouTube as well.
Yeah, your YouTube channel is excellent, and we will make sure that that's linked into the show notes and on YouTube in the description box and everything, so that everybody can quickly and easily find you and subscribe. Because you do a lot of shorts too, where it's just like little vignettes of just reminding people this is how your life works, and I found your content extremely valuable. So
Thank
thanks for
you.
putting it out there, and thanks for joining me today. This was really excellent. Yeah, and thanks for humoring all of my, little bit out there questions.
Yeah, no, I like them. They got me thinking. They got me thinking. I like them.
Good, good. Well, we're trying to keep things unique here and a little bit different, so I am so glad that you were able to join us. Everybody, go find Joel. All of the links are in the show notes. All of the links are down below. Go find him anywhere you follow people, and, we will see you next time on ZANTASTIC.
Take care, guys.